So it will start at 12, huh? After
Yes,
two
sir.
minutes.
After 2 minutes, we will start, sir.
Ah, so previous session may be going on. That's why. Yeah? So how many participants are there?
Sir, 104.
104. Good. Very good. Good number of participants are there. Very good. So this will be up to what? Means 6 to, it started on 6, no?
It will be up to 10th, sir.
Oh, 10th. Oh, good.
5 day, and it is called basically 1 week course.
1 week course. Good.
So, sir, we can start now, I think.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. So, good noon, sir. I welcome Professor A.K. Bateja for this session, and some brief about the Professor A.K. Bateja. Professor A.K. Bateja has completed MSc in Mathematics from University of Rajasthan, Jaipur. He received MTech in Computer Science from IIT Delhi and PhD on biometric-based crypto system from IIT Delhi. In 1980, he joined as lecturer, now called as assistant professor in mathematics in University of Rajasthan. And in 1983, he was selected as scientist B in DRDO through UPSC. In DRDO, he got elevated to scientist H, outstanding scientist, and director in DRDO headquarters, Delhi. From May 2020, he is working as professor in IIT Delhi. His research interests include machine learning, biometric security, parallel and distributed computing, cryptography, and cryptanalysis. He has delivered invited talks in DTU Delhi, GNU Delhi, Delhi University, DIAT Pune, and various laboratories of the DRDO. Sir, we welcome you here. And the title of talk of Professor A.K. Bateja today will be Meta Heuristics Techniques, especially cuckoo search in analysis of crypto systems. So thank you, sir, for turning up for our FDB course. And we again welcome you, sir, for this
Thank
course.
you. Thank you very much, Professor Vijender. Thank you. Why could not open that? Uh, may I?
सर कुछ इशू आ रहा है
Uh, actually, I have not uploaded that. So first I will open that and again I will join maybe within 1 minute, right? Just
ओके
half.
सर ओके ओके
Yeah. Yeah, my presentation slide is visible or not? Can you see my this slide?
No, sir.
Not visible.
सर अब प्रेजेंट कर दीजिए बिकॉज आई वाज प्रेजेंटिंग अर्लियर.
Okay. So but I'm not able to present that.
सर आई हैव एडेड यू एज को होस्ट. अब फिर ट्राई करके देखिए सर एक बार. सर एंटायर स्क्रीन शेयर करिएगा.
Entire screen, yeah, I'm sharing that.
अच्छा सर.
लेकिन उसमें शेयर नहीं हो रहा, वो कैंसिल का आ रहा है. Share option is not highlighted actually. Only
सर
cancel
दोबारा
is
ज्वाइन
there.
करिए.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It is coming now. It is visible, sir. सर अनम्यूट कर लीजिए. माइक अनम्यूट कर लीजिए सर.
Share option is still not highlighted. Only cancel, I can cancel that. I can't share that entire screen.
सर फिर पीपीटी जो है मुझे भेज दीजिए, वो मैं यहाँ से प्रेजेंट कर देता हूँ, आप बताते रहिएगा, मैं स्विच करता रहूंगा सर.
Okay. In PDF form you want or?
जो भी सर बनाया होगा.
Okay. ठीक है, just a minute.
ठीक है सर.
I'm sending you.
सर मेल पे भेज रहे हैं व्हाट्सएप पर?
मेल कर देता हूँ, कैसे करूँ? मेल ठीक रहेगा?
मैं उसी पर देख लूंगा सर, अभी देख लेता हूँ.
मेल करता हूँ, कॉपी करता हूँ. I have sent you.
Let me check sir.
Yeah.
यस सर, आ गया.
ठीक है. Yes. So, good afternoon to all of you. In this session, we will discuss some meta-heuristic algorithms which are helpful in analysis of crypto systems. So, someone want to join the call? Okay. Yeah. Next slide. So we will discuss first the overview of the meta-heuristic algorithms. Some of the meta-heuristic algorithms I will just mention here. Then I will highlight some of the crypto systems, means overview of cryptography. Then how can we use meta-heuristic techniques in cryptanalysis? And then I will specially discuss cuckoo search because I have worked in this area, cuckoo search. I have applied cuckoo search in the analysis of crypto systems. And I have found that cuckoo search is a very efficient and powerful technique for the analysis of some of the crypto systems. So I will also illustrate how can we apply this cuckoo search algorithm for the analysis of one particular crypto system, which is Wigner cipher crypto system. Yeah, next please. Yeah. So actually, this analysis of any kind of crypto system, even, all these problems are definitely NP-hard problems, whether it is a classical crypto system or any other crypto system. And you may be knowing some of the NP-hard problem. And these are some of examples of optimization problems which are NP-hard: trailing salesman problem, maximum click problem, vertex cover problem. All of these are considered as NP-hard problem, and these problems can't be solved in polynomial time. But after applying the meta-heuristic techniques, it is possible to solve these in real time. So similar technique we can apply in analyzing the crypto systems. All these meta-heuristic techniques are basically used to find the optimal solution, right? And our problem, which is cryptanalysis problem, we want to find the key actually. And finding key is a non-linear optimization problem without any constraints. So it is called a non-linear unconstrained optimization problem. Yeah, next please. So these are the techniques to solve NP-hard problem, branch and bound. It finds the exact solution. There are some problems which requires heuristic methods, because if the problem can't be solved in polynomial time, it is an NP-hard problem, then heuristic can find a solution which may be very close to that solution or near solution. For example, A-star algorithm or best first search algorithm, which are in AI, artificial intelligence, are considered as heuristic search algorithms. There are some problems, there are some algorithms which are called meta-heuristic algorithms. Meta-heuristic means along with some heuristic function, there is randomization also. Because there are many problems, as we will discuss in this lecture, the script analysis is that kind of problem which cannot be solved just by using heuristic function. The reason is that avalanche effect is there. So we will discuss all these things in the following slides. Yeah, please go ahead. Next slide, please. So these are very simple things, deterministic and non-deterministic algorithm. I think all of you may be knowing about these things, so no need to explain these things. Please go to next slide. Yeah. So what is meta-heuristic? Meta-heuristic was formally defined by Osman and Laporte in 1996. According to them, a meta-heuristic is formally defined as an iterative generation process which guides a subordinate heuristic by combining intelligently different concepts of exploring and exploiting. These are the two important things here: exploring and exploiting the search space. So it can exploit the search space locally and it can explore the entire space also. So learning strategies are used to structure information in order to find efficiently near optimal solution. So many cases it may be okay or maybe good enough if we can find a solution which is near optimal solution. In cryptanalysis also, through these heuristic algorithms, we may find some of the solutions which are near optimal solutions. And after that, to find the exact solution, it is possible to check manually and to find the exact solution. Yeah, next please. Next please. So these are the, yeah. The previous slide, because I have not explained that. Exploitation and exploration. Previous slide, please. Yeah. So exploitation and exploration, these are the two basic concepts which are used in these meta-heuristic algorithms. What is the meaning of exploitation? Exploitation means local search. And exploration means global search. This is the only difference between exploitation and exploration. And all of these algorithms, whether it is a genetic algorithm or particle swarm optimization or cuckoo search or any other algorithm, which are meta-heuristic algorithms, all of them use exploitation and exploration. So we will discuss in later slides how these algorithms exploit and explore the entire search space. Yeah, next please. Next slide, please. Yeah. So these are the few fundamental properties of meta-heuristic. Meta-heuristics are strategies that guide the search process. The goal is to efficiently explore the search space in order to find not the exact solution. Our aim is to find a near optimal solution. Techniques which constitute meta-heuristic algorithms range from simple local search to complex learning processes. We will discuss a few meta-heuristic algorithms. Meta-heuristic algorithms are approximate and usually non-deterministic. Approximate means they generally don't find the exact solution, but it can find a solution which is very close to the exact solution. Yeah, next please. Next please. Yeah. So these meta-heuristic algorithms may incorporate mechanisms to avoid getting trapped in confined area of search space. This is the problem actually. So even A-star algorithm or any other search technique, they get trapped. So how can we get rid out of this? There are approaches, we will discuss them also. The basic concept of meta-heuristic permits an abstract level description. It doesn't go to the depth of that. Meta-heuristics are not problem specific. Genetic algorithm is one of the meta-heuristic algorithm. Particle swarm optimization is also meta-heuristic algorithms. These are not problem specific. All these steps are applicable to find solution of any of the optimization problem. Meta-heuristic may use of domain-specific knowledge in the form of heuristics. So what is required here? Every meta-heuristic algorithm requires a heuristic function. Along with heuristic function, it adds randomization. So that's why it's called meta-heuristic algorithms. So for finding the heuristic function gives the direction of movement. To solve any optimization problem, there are two things which are required. Any non-linear optimization problem requires direction of movement and the step size. These two things are required. So heuristic function gives the direction of movement actually. And we will discuss one important property in cuckoo search, which makes the search very efficient, that it also optimizes the step size. So today more advanced meta-heuristic use search experience are there to guide the search. Yeah, next please. So these are some of the meta-heuristic algorithms: simulated annealing, genetic algorithm, ant colony optimization, particle swarm optimization, cuckoo search algorithm. All of these are evolutionary techniques actually, and inspired by nature. We will quickly discuss these algorithms, and then we will discuss how can we apply these algorithms in solving the problem of cryptanalysis. Yeah, next please. So this is about the simulated annealing. This is a basic principle in thermodynamics. Annealing, it refers to an analogy with thermodynamics, specifically with the way that metals cool and anneal. So the algorithm is historically hill climbing concept instead of picking the best move. So even many of these meta-heuristic algorithms, they are based on hill climbing concept kind of thing. If the selected move improves the solution, then it is always accepted. So our aim in this case is to minimize the energy function. We will define the energy function. Aim is always to minimize the energy function. And if the new energy, if the new key gives the less amount of energy, then we will accept that. Otherwise also, we can't say that if the energy is more than the previous one, then we can't say it has to be rejected. It may be accepted in that case also, but with a small probability. So how can we find that probability? Using this formula. Here K is a Boltzmann constant, T is the temperature. So using this formula, if the probability of a random number generated is less than this, then accept the new one, otherwise keep the previous one. So this is the basic concept of simulating annealing. So the parameter T is used to determine the probability. The parameter K is some constant, relates temperature. It is called the Boltzmann constant. Yeah, next please. This is the algorithm of simulated annealing. At the beginning, what can we do is create random initial solution. So we can have random initial solution to solve any problem. Or if you want to find the key of a particular cryptogram, you can have a random key. Then find the initial value of energy, E old. It is equal to cost of that. So how can we find cost? By defining heuristic function. So find cost of that particular solution. For temperature is equal to max to min. So these are the threshold value that we can't tolerate beyond this limit. So I is equal to 0 to I max. Then find the next, that is successor of gamma, I gamma. That is you can define a randomized function for this. And then find the cost energy function of that new key or new solution, which is gamma 1. And if delta E, which is the difference of the new value of this function or energy function from the previous value, that is the old energy function, find the difference. And if the E new is greater than E old, then we may accept. But if E new is less than E old, then definitely it means our move is correct. Direction of movement is correct. So definitely in that case, we have to accept the new value, store the new value. Otherwise, if E new is greater than E old, then generate a random number and the value of the random number is less than this value, only then accept it. Otherwise, reject that. So we are not always ignoring those keys which does not give us the more accurate answer, means which is not more close to the actual solution. So E old in that case is equal to E new. Otherwise means whenever the new value is less than the old value, we have to accept. Yeah, next please. This is overview of the genetic algorithm, metaheuristic approach. This was introduced by John Holland in 1960. It is based on the Darwin's concept theory of biological evolution of organism. The offsprings produced by the organism are almost like the organism. Now, what is the basis of this? The better adapted offsprings have more chances to survive over time and improve the adaptability in later generations. So this is the basic concept of this genetic algorithm. There are these two operators which are used in genetic algorithm: crossover and mutation. So what is the purpose of crossover and what is the purpose of mutation? We will discuss these also. In crossover, the chromosomes of the two parents are randomly combined to form offspring, and mutation changes the randomly selected gene of an offspring to another random gene. Basically, crossover gives the new solution, direction of movement. It creates movement actually, finding another solution. And mutations, whenever it get trapped at the local optimal point, then mutation has to get rid from that. So this is the purpose of mutation and this is the purpose of crossover. Yeah, next please. So in genetic algorithm, at the beginning, you can have some random solutions. Generate a solution randomly, maybe 20 random solutions. Then find the fitness function value. Definitely to solve any problem using meta-heuristic approach, heuristic function has to be defined. And find the fitness function value of each of the solution which has been selected randomly. Then select two solutions by an approach, roulette wheel approach, or rank selection approach, or any other. There are many approaches to select two solutions, and considering that the solution having higher fitness function value should have more probability to get selected. If a solution is having very less fitness function value, even zero fitness function value, can't be ignored. May also be considered, but the probability of selecting that particular solution which has less fitness function value should be less. So this is the approach which can be used to select two solutions or two keys, and both of these two keys can be combined to generate two new keys. So for that purpose, crossover and mutations operators are there. Crossover, select one crossover point, or there may be two crossover point, and change the second half of that. And mutation means randomly select any bit and just mute that. Means flip that, replace 0 by 1 or 1 by 0. So this is the meaning of mutation. And mutation helps whenever it gets trapped at a local point. So mutation is not applied always. When mutation is applied, only when the random number is having value less than the probability of mutations. So at the beginning, you have to define probability of crossover, probability of mutation also. And whenever a random number which is generated is less than the probability of mutation, generally what happens is there should be very less chances that mutation is applied, not more than 5%. It means the mutation, probability of mutation can't be more than 0.05. It has to be less than that. And crossover has to be applied almost every time. It means the probability of crossover has to be more than, say, 0.9 or approximately close to 0.9. Then after applying crossover and mutation, 2 new keys can be generated or 2 new solutions can be generated. So in this way, every time selected 2 solutions, apply crossover, apply mutation, and then generate new solutions. So in this way, if you have at the beginning, say 20 solutions of a problem, then again, after iterating all of these steps means crossover and mutation, you will be having 20 new solutions. Some may be same one also. So that also gives some advantage actually. That's why elitism is there. Elitism, yeah, please go to next slide. Yeah, I think it is there in that slide. Yeah, please next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now, another meta-heuristic algorithm, which is particle swarm optimization. This is also one of the powerful algorithm in solving many of the non-linear optimization problems. So particle swarm optimization was introduced by Candy and Eberhard in 1995. It is motivated by group organism behavior of species in nature, such as swarm, bird, or fish schooling. So bird fly and in the search of food. So how these birds search the food, that has been studied and implemented, and that technique is used to find the optimal solution. So this is the basis of this PSO. PSO balances the exploitation and exploration both. So exploitation means search locally, exploration means search globally. So each particle learns from its own flying experience as well as from the flying experience of others. So there are several birds flying together. Now, each of the bird will be having the best position and is also looking the leader of them, means who is moving best. So keeping both of these value, the best value of the individual one and overall best value. Each particle has a velocity and it remembers the position it was in when it had its best result so far. So each particle is moving, each bird is moving. So there should be a formula for finding the velocity. Velocity at a particular point may be different. So there should be a formula for finding the velocity, and each of the particle has to remember its position, best position, and overall best position of all the particles. So each particle knows the fitness value of other particles and use the position of one best particle, that is the G best. So for finding the that which one is the best one, how can you do that? Definitely heuristic function is required. So first of all, to solve any problem, define heuristic function, then find heuristic function at each point. For each position, it has to find the heuristic function value and has to remember P best means the best up to that point, and overall best. Overall best means best position of all the particles. So updating velocity and position is responsible for the optimization ability of the algorithm. So definitely every time the velocity and the position have to be updated. How can we do that? So they have proposed this formula, Candy and Edinburgh, they proposed the formulas for updating the velocity and position of each of the particle based on the P best position of the individual particle, and G best, that is the global best position. Yeah, next please. Next please. Yeah, next please. Now, before applying these heuristic techniques, we have just discussed the overview of genetic algorithm, this one, particle swarm optimization, simulated annealing also. Now we will discuss a few things about the cryptography, because our aim is to how can we apply meta-heuristic techniques in cryptology, especially cryptanalysis. So cryptology means encryption, decryption, and its analysis also. So cryptology can be divided into two categories: cryptography and cryptanalysis. Cryptography means what? Encryption and decryption means knowing the key, the encryption process and the decryption process. So if the key is known, everyone can encrypt and decrypt. It means authorized users use the cryptography, or designing of a crypto system also comes under cryptography. Crypt analysis means what? Without knowing the key, if the person is trying to analyze the encrypted message, in every country or even the terrorist groups, they are nowadays using cryptographic techniques, crypto systems, for transmitting the messages or images also. So what they do actually, they use a crypto system, encrypt it and transmit that. Suppose an interceptor is there who is intercepting the message. Message means encrypted text now. Has intercepted that encrypted text. The aim of the cryptanalyst is to find out the message. Every country is having cryptanalyst because every country wants to know what is happening in the outside world. Even within the country, there may be many terrorist groups. They may be communicating using any crypto system. So the aim of the government is always to find out the actual message, plain message. So how it is possible? Only through cryptanalysis. Because the key is not known, only ciphertext is known. So if only ciphertext is known, then how can we find the plain text, or how can we find the key, is called cryptanalysis. So this is the definition of cryptanalysis. And cryptography means designing a crypto system, or you can say encryption and decryption, knowing key. Next, please. Yeah, next slide, please. And in this presentation, in this session, we will discuss how can we analyze the ciphertext. So the goal of cryptographic system is what? Confidentiality. Confidentiality means what? An unauthorized party should not have access to the actual information or the plain text. Unauthorized person should not be able to understand that. Only the person who is authorized, to whom the message is being sending, should be able to understand. In between, if a person is there, means if in between interceptor is there, should not be able to understand that. So this is the first goal of cryptographic system. Next one is data integrity, means modification in between. So any unauthorized party should not be able to modify the message or tamper the information. This is the second requirement of a crypto system. Third requirement of a crypto system is authentication. Assurance that communicating entity is the one claim. The message has been received. Then you have to authenticate that the message, whatever I have received, has been sent by the authorized person only. Non-repudiation. Non-repudiation means protection against denial by one of the parties in a communication. So after sometimes a person can deny that I have not sent this message, or I have not sent that message. So it may be possible. So it should not be that. So while designing crypto system, the aim is to have confidentiality. Second aim is data integrity. Third aim is authentication. And fourth aim is non-repudiation. So if all of these things are there, now you can understand a person is encrypting using a crypto system having these properties. And our aim is now to analyze the encrypted message. It means we want to understand cryptanalysis using any of these meta heuristic techniques. Yeah, next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So this is the standard definition of crypto system. Cryptographic techniques are used to protect information by ensuring confidentiality, integrity, and authenticity. I already explained these things. Mathematically, crypto system is a 4-tuple having P. P is the set of plain text. Capital K, set of possible keys. Capital C is the set of ciphertext, and F is a function. So there is a function F which takes two things, plain text and key, and output is a ciphertext. So F is a function from P cross K to C. It binds the plain text P or plain text which is in P, say X, and the key K, which is in capital K, such that Y is equal to function of X and K, and it is a ciphertext. So it is and it should be computationally hard to extract the plain text knowing the ciphertext only. If plain text if ciphertext is known, key is not known, then it should be hard to find the plain text or the key knowing the ciphertext. Yeah, next slide, please. So this is just an example pictorial diagram that if this is the plain text, then after encrypting it using the key K, ciphertext will look like this. It's just a random sequence of alphabets. If it is alphabets, if it's a binary sequence, it will be a binary sequence. It will definitely be a random binary sequence. Most of even all the crypto systems generate a binary sequence which is random. Or if it generates a alphabetic sequence is also usually random sequence. Then the analyst and then the decipherer who wants to decrypt it, authorized person, will receive this ciphertext, and after applying the key, it will be possible for the decryptor or authorized person to find the plain text using the key K. Yeah, next slide, please. This is just to illustrate encryption and decryption process. Now, there are different types of crypto systems. One of the categories is classical crypto systems. There are several classical crypto systems and there are several modern crypto systems also. These meta-heuristic techniques can be used very efficiently to solve these classical crypto systems. People have tried to use meta-heuristic techniques to solve modern crypto system also, but the ability to analyze modern crypto system is definitely very low. So, but to analyze classical crypto system using meta-heuristic technique, the probability is very, very high, even close to 1. First one is class substitution cipher. Substitution cipher means what? Just replace, say, A by Q, B by something else, say R, C by something, say A, and so on. Just substitute each alphabet by another alphabet, and you will get a random sequence kind of thing, which can't be understandable. So that is called the substitution cipher. Transposition cipher, just transpose right in the form of rows and column and apply interchange two rows or two columns. So that is called the transposition cipher. Third one is Playfair. Playfair is also a digraphic substitution cipher. Means take digraph, TH is a digraph, replace by it by another digraph. That is called the Playfair cipher. Hill cipher is also a very good crypto system. It uses a matrix kind of thing. And if you have a plain text in the form of a vector, say size n, and you can have a key that is n cross n matrix, and if you multiply the vector, which is plain text vector, and the key k, which is the matrix n cross n, then the output will be a vector of size n. And that is the ciphertext. So without the knowledge of the matrix, which is key, k, n by n matrix, it is not possible to find out the plain text knowing only the ciphertext. Because to find the plain text knowing ciphertext, the requirement is inverse of that key. Next one is Wigner cipher. Wigner cipher is, I think, better than these substitution ciphers. We will discuss in detail, and I have personally applied meta-heuristic techniques to solve Wigner cipher. I will explain in detail what is Wigner cipher and then how can we apply these meta-heuristic techniques to analyze Wigner cipher. Yeah, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is the definition of Wigner cipher. What is Wigner cipher? Given a message M, a positive integer. Message is in general English language message, right? If it is an English language message, what can you do is you can convert into numerals. Numerals, how can you do that? For example, you can consider that A is equal to 0, B is equal to 1, C is 2, and similarly and so on. Z is 25. Generally in the classical crypto systems or actual communication, secure communication, blanks, full stops, comma, or any special character. Even numerals are also not used. If suppose you want to transmit a message having, say, numeral value, for example, 10. Instead of writing 10, you can write TEN, 10. So in practice, in actual communication, these numerals are not used, only 26 alphabets are used. And if the person, authorized person, is well conversant with the person who is sender, then it is not difficult to understand the message after decrypting. If there is no full stop, no blank, no comma, no any other special character. So suppose M be the message, a positive integer, any positive integer, 0 to 25 in this case, and K be the key, K1, K2, Km, key. Select a key K, where Ki is in Z26, means the value of each one of this K1, K2, Km may be either 0, from 0 to 25, any number, maybe 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 25. M is the size of this key. Now encryption process is what? Ci is equal to Pi. Pi is the plain text integer, ith integer of the plain text. If suppose we have, say, plain text crypt analysis. So C is having the value, numerical value of C is 2. A is 0, B is 1, C is 2. So for each of the character, you can have a numerical value, and Pi is the ith numerical value corresponding to the ith character in the plain text. So Pi plus Ki mod M. M is the size of the key. Mod 26. This is the encryption process. So after adding these two under mod 26, you will get a numerical value between 0 to 25, and that is the CI or ith numerical value of the ith character of ciphertext. Then decryption can be done by the reverse process, means by subtracting the key. For example, if suppose we have key code, code is the key, CODE is the key, and our plain text is crypt analysis, CRYPT and so on. This is the plain text, and code is the key. Now, what is the encryption of this using Wigner cipher? So just write crypt analysis, then write CODE. Since the size of the plain text is more than the size of the key, so what can you do? You can write CODE, then again you write CODE, again you write CODE, and so on. So below every character of the plain text, write a key character, just add them. C is having numerical value 2, this C is also 2, so 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, mod 26 is 4, so 4 is equivalent to E, corresponding character is E. So this is the ciphertext character corresponding to this plain text character C. Similarly, for R, R is the plain text character, O is the key character, add these two, then take mod with 26, and the numerical value convert it into a character, that is suppose F. So in this way, we can convert this plain text, which is crypt analysis in this case, into a ciphertext, which is here E, F, B, T, V, O, Q, E, N, M, V, M, U. So this is, no one can understand the meaning of this one. And this is just like a random sequence, right? So now, what is our aim? This is just the introduction of Wigner cipher. Our aim is, if suppose only ciphertext is given to you, if this sequence is given, E, F, B, T, V, O, Q, and so on, then is it possible to find the plain text, which is crypt analysis, without the knowledge of the key, which is code in this case? How can we do that? This is the problem. This is the crypt analysis of Wigner cipher. How can we proceed that? Okay, please, next slide. Is it clear? If you have any question, you can ask me in between also. The things should be clear. This is my aim. Now, what is our aim? We want to find out the corresponding plain text of a given ciphertext. So only ciphertext is given, key is not given. How can we find the plain text? We can apply meta-heuristic technique. Before applying meta-heuristic technique, definitely the requirement is to have a fitness function. Now, how can we define fitness function? Our aim is, after applying a key on the ciphertext, we should be able to get the plain text. Plain text means what? A English text, standard English text. Now, after applying a key, which is not the actual key, then it will not give us the standard English text. But if we have got somehow the actual key or key close to the actual key, then after applying that key, after decrypting the ciphertext, we will be very close to the standard English text. So this is, if we keep this in mind, then we can define heuristic function. After applying whatever the key we have assumed to the ciphertext, find the fitness function value. So how can we define fitness function value so that we will get an idea that how far we are from the actual key, right? So in standard English, what happens? The frequency of each of the letter is almost fixed. The frequency of T, if you see any standard English text, frequency of T will be maximum. Frequency of Q is minimum, or frequency of Z is also minimum. So frequency pattern of the English letters in standard English text is almost fixed. Similarly, the frequency pattern of digraphs even in standard English is also fixed. For example, frequency of TH is maximum. If you take any standard text, English standard text of length, say 500 characters or more, then the frequency of TH will be maximum. So we will discuss in the next slide what is the frequency of these digraphs or trigraphs. So now we can exploit this weakness of standard English language or even any other language. Hindi language also has all these characteristics. Punjabi, Hindi, any language has its own characteristic of frequency of the letters, digraph, trigraph. Now, fitness function we have already defined. It is an indicator of how close the possible solution obtained during search is to the optimal solution. Our aim is to find the optimal solution. Our aim is to find the actual key. But we don't know the key. So what can we do? We can randomly select a key and we can check how far we are from the actual key. How can we check that? Only by defining fitness function value. So a good fitness function value helps the search algorithm in exploring the search space more effectively and efficiently, while bad fitness function makes the search algorithm get trapped in a local optimal point. So defining fitness function to solve a particular problem is the most important task. Now, for this particular problem, that is the analysis of Wigner cipher, the fitness function value may be, after applying the key, whatever we have assumed, we will be having a text which may not be the actual plain text, something else may also be there. We can find frequency of a digraph. Each of the digraph is suppose TH, ON, HE, all of these are the digraph. And we can find the frequency of monogram also. Monogram means frequency of T, frequency of H, frequency of A, frequency of B, frequency of every character. Now, this is observed frequency of monogram, OFMI. Observed frequency of ith monogram minus expected frequency of ith monogram. You can find frequency of A in the text obtained after applying key on the ciphertext. That is the observed frequency. And expected in standard English, what is the frequency of A in general? Find the difference of these two. Because if the key is correct, definitely the frequency pattern will match. So that we can find the difference here. Similarly, this is the difference of the observed OFB. OFB is is the observed frequency of bigraph, of the ith bigraph, minus expected frequency of the ith bigraph. So find the difference of this one. If the key is the, whatever we have assumed is the actual key, then this difference will be very close to 0. This difference will also be very close to 0. It means fitness function value will be very close to 0. Otherwise, it will have maximum fitness function value. Now, what should be the weightage of this difference? Lambda, multiply it by lambda 1 and multiply it by lambda 2. Through some experiments, we have obtained the values of lambda 1 and lambda 2. I will show you in the next slide. And for any particular key, we can find the fitness function value. Again, I'm repeating the same thing. How can you find the fitness function value? If you have ciphertext, assumed a key is there, apply that key, try to decipher it. It may not be the plain text, it may be something else also. Find frequency of each of the alphabet, find frequency of each of the bigram, and then find these values. That is the fitness function value. So our aim here is to minimize the fitness function value. To minimize the fitness function value, and here the objective function is what? This is the fk is the objective function. So it is non-linear objective function. So, and there is no constraint. So that's why it is considered as non-linear unconstrained optimization technique. So if we have non-linear unconstrained optimization problem, then definitely meta-heuristic functions are applicable. Yeah, next slide, please. Next slide. These are the letters having decreasing order of the frequencies. So most frequency monogram N1. In this experiment, we considered only 20 monograms having highest frequency. So in English text, standard English text, frequency of E is maximum, then frequency of T, then frequency of A, then frequency of O, then frequency of I in general. It may be sometimes you may find frequency of T is maximum, more than frequency of E. It may also be possible. But in general, this pattern is there. And about the diagram, TH is having maximum frequency, then HE, then IN, then ER, and so on. So in this experiment, we considered only 25 bigram and 20 monogram. And these are the weightage of these monogram and diagram. Lambda 1 is equal to 0.23 and lambda 2 is 0.77. These values are obtained through experiments only. Yeah, next slide, please. So now the problem is clear. Our problem is to minimize the objective function, which is f of k. We have already defined that function. So how can we minimize that? We can now use genetic algorithm, we can use PSO, we can use cuckoo search also. I will show you the actual results, whatever we have achieved after applying genetic algorithm, after applying PSO, after applying cuckoo search also. So genetic algorithm, the concepts of the basic steps of genetic algorithm I already discussed. Now, how can we actually apply genetic algorithm in solving the Vigenère cipher? Step number 1 is generate a random solution to form population of size n. And we can decide at the beginning. Generally, we take it 20 or 25. If we take 20, then performance is optimal. So we can randomly select 20 keys. Size of the key can be obtained by another method. There are methods to find the size of the key of Vigenère cipher. Here we are assuming that size of the key is already known. So suppose size of the key is M, it is already known. So what can you do is, you can generate randomly n number of keys, each of size M character. Then find the fitness function value of each of this key or chromosome. Suppose we have size of the key is 4. We have got by some way. There are techniques, I'm not going to discuss them. These are statistical techniques. One of the technique is Kaspersky approach, which is a very effective approach to find the size of the key. So if size of the key is 4 and number of keys suppose 20, then generate 20 random sequences, each of size 4 character. Repeat these following. First one is select 2 chromosomes. How can you select? By any of the selection approach, roulette wheel. We have used roulette wheel in our experiments. Then generate a random number R in between 0 and 1. If that random number is less than PC, that is the crossover probability. At the beginning, you have to fix PC, the value of PC, crossover probability. Generally, we take it 0.9. Then generate a random number R in the interval 0 to 1. And if R is less than the mutation probability, PM is mutation probability. Generally, its value is very low. It is 0.05, close to 0.05. And apply mutation. Then place the newly generated chromosomes in new population. So if 2 chromosomes are there from the old population, it will generate 2 new chromosomes. In this way, if at the beginning we have 20 chromosomes at the beginning, 20 solutions, or you can say 20 keys are there, then through these experiments, through these steps, step number 3, 20 new keys will be obtained. Use new population for the next generation. So in this way, again, apply this step number 3 to generate new population. Every time what we are doing is we are finding the fitness function value. We are finding the F value for each of the key. And we can stop whenever the F value or the fitness function value of a particular key is very close to 0. We can stop there itself. And that particular key may be the optimal solution or near optimal solution. So if a satisfactory solution is found, then stop and return the best solution. And otherwise, what can you do is go to step number 2, means find the fitness function value of each of the chromosome in the population and generate new population. Repeat these steps, and after few number of iterations, it is possible to find the key which is very close to the actual key. Yeah, next slide, please. Are you getting these things? Okay. Next one is particle swarm optimization. How can we use particle swarm optimization in analysis of Vigenère cipher? In particle swarm optimization, the number of particles we have to decide at the beginning, that is NP. Size of the key, say M. And self and swarm confidence weighting factor, that is C1 and C2. And next, and another one is the inertia weight, W. So size of the key, I already explained you that the number of alphabets in the key, that is M, and number of keys NP in this case. In this case also, usually we take NP is equal to close to 20. Initialize the position xi of each particle by generating NP random sequences. So at the beginning, definitely we have to consider only the random sequences, and we can find the fitness function value of each one. If the fitness function value is better than the fitness function value of its best position, P best, then set that value as the new P best value. Otherwise, because after every iteration, the requirement is each of the bird or each of these particle has to find out the P best value and should also be knowing the G best value. So choose the particle having the best fitness function value in this form called the position G best. So overall best position can be obtained by each of the particle, or we can say will be known to each of the particle. Yeah. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. Then next step is for each of the particle, it is required to update the velocity and the position. So these are the standard formulas for updating velocity and position of the particle. And after that, what is required? Again, you have to find out the P best value, G best value. If the maximum number of iterations is attained or fitness function of G best is less than the threshold value, so definitely the G best having the best possible value, or you can say in this particular problem having the minimum value of the function f will be considered G best. And if that is very close to 0, we have to stop there itself. And we can declare that the key is the key having minimum f value. Yeah, next slide, please. So using these genetic algorithm and particle swarm optimization, we have got good results also. In genetic algorithm, the probability of crossover which we took is 0.9 and probability of mutation is 0.2. It may be even lesser than this also. So particle swarm optimization, C1 is 2.05, swarm confidence C2 is equal to 2.05. These are self-confidence and swarm confidence. These are two constants, C1 and C2. And inertia weight, we took 1, W is equal to 1. Key size 15. It means size of the beginner's key of the beginner cipher is 15. COD, whatever I have shown in the example, only size was 4 only, but we have tried up to 15. So ciphertext, size of the ciphertext taken was 400 characters. After applying PSO, roughly 10 to 14 characters found correctly. If you can have even 10 characters, correct 10 characters in the key, then you can apply that key on the ciphertext. Definitely, after applying the ciphertext, the message obtained will not be the actual message or the plain text, but it will be very close to that. So if you can have a text which is close to the plain text, then manually it is not difficult, or it is, you can say, it is very easy to find out the actual plain text also. In ciphertext 400 characters, after applying genetic algorithm, almost similar but slightly better than PSO, the results were obtained. 11 to 14 key characters found correctly. Next slide, please. Yeah. Next one is Cuckoo, which is a very powerful and efficient algorithm for solving these problems. So what is Cuckoo? There are several species of birds that are obligate interspecific brood parasite. Cuckoo is one of them. There are many other fishes are there. Ducks, some of the particular ducks are also there. What generally they do is they lays its egg swiftly. normally within 10 seconds. They don't take much time in laying the eggs, with a lower limit of 3 to 4 seconds. And it leads to adaptoparasitic behavior. So what generally cuckoo does is, cuckoo birds lay their bird eggs in the nest of other birds, in the nest of crow, and provide no parental care. The egg of crow and egg of cuckoo looks almost same. So cuckoo, they lays their egg in the nest of crows. So effect of brood parasitism is on breeding success, usually depress nesting success of host in the following way. So what happens when cuckoo has laid its egg in the nest of other birds? Then the female parasite may remove host egg. Either the cuckoo will throw the egg which is already there, means the egg of crow, or mechanically damage that, or after hatching young parasites may evict or kill outright host eggs. The the young of cuckoo are, so you can say, more clever, and they come out in less amount of time in comparison to cuckoo and in comparison to other birds. So they throw out or they kill the eggs of others, or they kill the other birds even. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So cuckoo search. So this was the actually theory of cuckoo. A cuckoo lays the egg in other birds, and that bird, maybe crow or maybe some other bird, will take care of the egg of cuckoo. And what happens is, when the bird come out from the egg, cuckoo bird come out from the egg, the bird may either throw the egg of crow, or may kill the young bird of crow. So this theory was simulated, and we are calling it as cuckoo search. What is that now? This was proposed by Xin Yang in 2009. So the quality of the solution is improved by generating a new solution by modifying certain characteristic of an existing solution and discarding the worst solution. So every time generate a new solution and discard some of the solutions which are not good, or you can say the worst solutions. The major component of cuckoo search through which the performance has been improved are Levy flight and Markov chain random walk. These are the two important theories which are used in cuckoo search. What is Levy flight actually? Now, I think in next slide it is clear. Levy flight basically optimize the step size, as I said at the beginning. To solve any non-linear unconstrained optimization problem, the requirement is direction of movement and step size. In other algorithm, the step size is not optimized every time. In cuckoo search, every time, in every iteration, the step size is also calculated and it is optimized. That's why cuckoo search is considered as more efficient search algorithm in comparison to particle swarm optimization technique or genetic algorithm technique. Yeah, next slide, please. Lévy flight, named after the French mathematician Paul Perry-Lévy. This is the path in which movements are in a random direction, but the distance traveled varies with each step. So in each iteration, it finds the optimal step size. So how can you do that? The step size may be very small, step size may be very large also. These Lévy flight approach are used by many of the animals. Tiger also use this kind of approach. Sometimes tiger take a big jump, and sometimes very slow. Tiger moves very slowly. Means the step size is very small, maybe even 1 inch, but sometimes the step size may be few meters also. So it depends upon the target. Similarly here also, Lévy flight approach is used to find out how far we are. On the basis of that, the step size is calculated. So Lévy behavior has been found in various organisms like birds, insects, microbes, spider, monkeys, and mammals. Yeah, next slide, please. Next slide. Yes. The most sorry, the most sorry, the most appropriate heavy-tailed probability distribution for Lévy flight is the power law, with exponent in the interval 1 to 3. So what is power law? Power law is y is equal to x raised to the power minus alpha. This is the power law. And it has infinite mean and infinite variance also. Using this approach, Lévy flight approach, the chances to encounter a new prey gets increased, and it may help in finding the optimal solution more quickly. I already explained this thing that if we can have optimal step size during each of the iteration, definitely the chances in getting the correct solution will be more, or we can say the convergence will be fast. So Lévy showed that the power law y is equal to mod x raised to the power minus alpha converges to stable symmetrical distribution with alpha value 1 to between 1 to 2. Mantegna proposed an algorithm for numerical simulation of Lévy stable distribution to find the step size. This is a there is a mathematical theory behind it. Mantegna explained these things in their paper, that if this is the step size, eta is equal to x by y raised to the power minus 1 by beta. Beta is a constant. We will discuss that also. Okay, what may be the possible values of beta? Then the convergence will be fast. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So this is the actual cuckoo search algorithm for cryptanalysis of Wigner cipher. Step 1 is initialization of cuckoo search algorithm parameters. So what are the parameters in cuckoo search? Set of that is the number of nests. How many nests should be there? Again, number of nests maybe 20 to 25 or close to 20. Size of the key M. In this particular case, if we want to solve Wigner cipher or to analyze Wigner cipher, the number of characters in the key is the size of the key. Allen X discovery probability PA. This has to be set at the beginning, PA. Step size parameter alpha and the maximum number of iterations. I will show you the optimal values of all of these parameters. Next, step number 2 is initialization of discrete nest or X of host birds. Initialize each of the nest, that is whatever we have assumed as a key. At the beginning, what can we do is we can randomly select the keys. That is randomly choosing a permutation of size m, because our assumption is the size of the key is m and number of keys is small n. So sampled uniformly at random from integers 0 to 25. Why it is 0 to 25? Because we are solving Wigner cipher and each of the character in Wigner cipher is 0 to 25. Each of the character of the key is also 0 to 25. So the key is a random sequence of numerals between 0 to 25. How many such numbers will be there? Size of the key. Here it is m. Generate new nest using Levi-Fly. So accept the best nest, all other nests are replaced by the new nest. Generated randomly using Levi-Fly. So Levi-Fly approach is used to find the step size, and then I will show you in the pseudocode also how can you use these Levi-Fly in finding the step size. So accept the best node, best nest at the all other nests are replaced by new nest generated randomly using Levi-Fly if the quality of the new nest is better. Yeah, next slide, please. Allen X discovery. To discard some of the worst nest, generate a random number, and if the Allen X discovery probability is greater than the random number, then a new solution is formed. Existing nests are replaced by newly generated ones, if better in quality from other positions and with random walk. So yeah, this will be clear in the pseudocode also. Stopping criteria: whenever the fitness function value is close to 0, we can stop there itself. The generation of new nest and Allen X discovery steps are performed alternatively until the number of iterations performed is less than the maximum number of iterations. We can put some threshold also that we can't afford more than these many iterations also. So if the number of iterations exceeds that threshold, then stop. Other way to stop is when the fitness function value is very close to 0, you can stop there itself. It means the solution is obtained. Now next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is a pseudocode which we have implemented and solved this Wigner cipher using Cuckoo search. Beta, which we have considered, is 1.5. Beta is what? That is used in Levi-Fly. Standard deviation, sigma x, standard deviation for x, and standard deviation of y is 1. Step size parameter alpha is equal to 0.01. This is also used in Levi-Fly calculation. Allen X discovery probability PA is also fixed at the beginning. What is its value? This is varying. We will show you in the. I will show you in the next slide. Then generate initial population of n nest, each of size m, and generate a matrix nest by randomly integers, selecting integers between 0 to 25. First, this for loop will be executed. Decrypt the cipher using nest as the decrypting key. As I said at the beginning, what you have to do is, or what is required to be done is that ciphertext is given. Apply a key. which is assumed as a key, randomly selected at the beginning. And you can find the fitness function value of that nest. So f of nest I, ith key, find the fitness function value, find the next nest having minimum fitness function value and call it best nest. So every time it is required to declare which one is the best nest having minimum fitness function value. Yeah, next slide, please. Then select X and Y randomly. Normally distributed randomly numbers with mean 0 and standard deviation sigma X and sigma Y respectively. So select X randomly, having standard deviations, that is sigma X, which is already fixed at the beginning, 0.6, close to 0.6, and sigma Y is 1. Find the step size. Eta, it is equal to X divided by Y mod raised to the power 1 by beta. Beta is also fixed 1.5. X we have randomly selected, Y also we have randomly selected. We can find the step size. So then after finding the step size, find the new nest using this formula depending upon the step size. This is similar to whatever we use in optimization technique to optimize any to find the optimal solution of a nonlinear programming problem. Then we can apply this one because simple bounds. Simple bounds is required because the value of the nest I has to be between 0 to 25. If it is less than 0, definitely it has to be 0. If it is more than 25, it has gone outside, then keep it inside, means make it 25. And then apply some permutation to introduce randomness in this algorithm. Then find random walks step size by this formula. So S is equal to R into nest 1 minus nest 2. You have the value of nest 1, key 1, key 2, and multiply by R. R is a random number selected, and find this is the random walk step size calculation. Yeah, next slide, please. And then decrypt the ciphertext using that particular key nest I assuming as the decryption key, find the fitness function value, and generate new one. So in this way, when the fitness function value of a key, definitely it will be best nest or best possible key, is less than some threshold value. Threshold value, our assumption maybe it should be close to 0, so it will not be 0. Close to 0 means maybe less than 0.1 or 0.2. Threshold may be like that. And if it is less than that threshold value, stop there itself and declare that the key is obtained. Yeah, next slide, please. So these are the results after doing experiment. Step size alpha 0.01, beta is equal to 1.5, discovery probability PA was taken as 0.25, key size 15. So after applying this cuckoo search with LevyFly, we got very good results. So 400 characters were taken of the ciphertext. A ciphertext of size 400 characters was analyzed using this cuckoo search. And out of these 15 keys, in most of the cases, all the 15 keys were obtained correctly. Sometimes 14 keys were obtained, sometimes all the 15 keys were obtained. So we found that this cuckoo search is really very effective and very efficient in the analysis of these crypto systems, classical crypto systems. These classical crypto systems are generally used in terrorist groups for their communication, secure communication. And that's why there is a need to have uh, an algorithm or algorithms through which it is possible to analyze or to know their communication. Yeah, next slide. Is it there or this is the last one? Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is the reference. So whatever I have discussed in this session, all these things are given in this paper. This was published in 2015. We have done this experiment using this genetic algorithm, particle swarm optimization, and cuckoo search. And the results obtained using cuckoo search are better than genetic algorithms and particle swarm optimization. Yeah. So any question now? If you have any question, you are welcome.
Participants may ask the questions now.
No question. It means either it is difficult.
Sir, this was a very informative session actually. You have done a great work there, especially for those values which were found using these experiments. The value of the C, the value of the beta, and the concept of the Levy flights, all these things, they were new. Actually, no, these things have not been covered so far in any other session.
Oh, that's why it is. I was thinking they may be
It will
knowing
be
these
very
things.
useful if anybody of the participants want to pursue higher studies, especially in the cryptography, then this lecture will be very, very helpful to them.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any question? Any maybe having any doubt also? Even genetic algorithms are also very good.
Yes, sir. But they were having some preconcept of those algorithms because those things have been covered somewhere in other lectures.
Yes, yes,
But
correct.
your lecture was totally new.
Okay, okay. Good.
And cuckoo search also has not been covered in any other lecture.
Okay, okay, okay. I was thinking they may be knowing these techniques. My intention was just how can you apply these techniques in solving these real problems actually.
Yes, sir.
This cryptanalysis is a real problem. Every country is facing this problem actually.
Yes, sir. And there is a huge demand for the cryptanalysis nowadays.
Yeah.
Even
That's why in
government
IIT Delhi,
organizations-
that's why in IIT Delhi, from this year, we have started this new program also, MTech in cybersecurity.
Okay, sir.
Especially cryptography and cryptanalysis is one of the vertical in that. Specialization in cryptography and cryptanalysis. And there is a huge demand of this also.
Right, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I think there are no questions.
Okay.
So thank you so much, sir, for coming here and giving the valuable insights in the crypt analysis and the cryptographic part. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, Professor Vijender, for inviting me and giving me a chance to interact with this. But I was thinking if they will ask me many questions actually. I
If
was
they will
expecting.
post the questions, sir, then I will forward to you.
Yeah, sure. Definitely. I will be happy.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Nice to talk. May I leave now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So participants, our next session will be at 2:30 p.m. Thank you.